Hello everyone, Ludwig here. In today's video, I'm bringing you an extraordinary story. A tale of arrogance meeting a brick wall of intelligence. This is the epic moment a journalist's smug ambush on Melania Trump backfired spectacularly, all thanks to none other than Barron Trump. Trust me, you won't believe how this showdown ends. So grab some popcorn because this is a masterclass in wit, strategy, and poetic justice. Picture this. A liberal journalist thought he had the perfect plan to humiliate Melania Trump at a charity gala in New York City. But there was one thing he didn't anticipate: Barron Trump's razor-sharp intellect and his Harvard-trained mind. The New York City philanthropy gala was packed with the usual suspects: elite socialites, hungry journalists, and cameras everywhere. Michael Reynolds from the Daily Progressive had spent weeks plotting his viral moment. He had 3 hidden cameras strategically placed, a social media team on standby, and a list of loaded questions designed to provoke Melania into an emotional response. He even had the hashtag number sign Melania Takedown ready to go viral. When Melania and Barron Trump arrived, Reynolds couldn't hide his smug smile. He had already made a name for himself with hit pieces on conservative women, and this was going to be his magnum opus. As he approached the duo with his fake smile and rolling cameras, Barron quietly pulled up Reynolds' Twitter history on his phone. What was on it? A digital trail of vicious attacks on conservative women that was about to blow up in Reynolds' face. "Mrs. Trump," Reynolds began, his phone live streaming to his 500,000 followers. "As someone who's benefited from America's opportunities, how do you respond to accusations that you've pulled up the ladder behind you?" The crowd tensed. Cameras turned. Reynolds smiled, thinking he had his viral moment locked down. But then Barron stepped forward. All 6 feet 7 inches of him towered over the journalist's 5'8" frame. What happened next would go down in journalism history. Reynolds instinctively took a step back as Barron's shadow fell over him, but he tried to maintain his composure. "I'm conducting an interview with your mother," he said, his voice slightly higher than intended. Barron's face broke into a knowing smile that made the journalist's stomach churn. The crowd, sensing the shift in dynamics, pulled out their phones. This wasn't going to be the viral moment Reynolds had planned. "Interesting approach to journalism," Barron's voice carried across the now silent room. "Let me pull up something from your Twitter last week." He held up his phone, displaying a tweet from Reynolds mocking conservative women as traitors to their gender. "Tell me, do you always disguise your misogyny as progressive values, or is that just for special occasions?" The journalist's face reddened as scattered laughter erupted from the crowd. Reynolds attempted to regain control, turning back to Melania. "Your son's interruption proves my point about privilege," he said. But Barron cut him off with surgical precision. "Like your privilege of selectively editing interviews to destroy careers?" He pulled up another tweet. "Or your privilege of mocking immigrant accents while pretending to champion diversity?" The crowd's phones were all recording now, capturing every moment of the journalist's growing discomfort. "This is about your mother's role in—" Reynolds started again, but Barron wasn't finished. "My mother's role? You mean the multilingual immigrant entrepreneur who's raised millions for children's charities?" Barron took another step forward, his Harvard law training evident in his measured tone. "Or did your research team miss those facts while they were crafting hit pieces?" The journalist's hands visibly shook as he tried to check his notes. He hadn't prepared for this, for a composed, articulate Barron systematically dismantling his attack. "The public has a right to know," Reynolds began, but Barron interrupted with a laugh that sent chills down his spine. "The public has a right to actual journalism, not your performative activism masquerading as reporting." Melania watched with quiet pride as her son controlled the room. She recognized Donald's strategic mind combined with her own grace under pressure. Reynolds, now sweating under the bright lights and Barron's unwavering gaze, desperately searched for an escape route, but Barron was just getting started. "Let's discuss your recent article about toxic masculinity in politics," Barron said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Written the same week you were caught bullying female interns at your network." The crowd gasped as Barron displayed screenshots of internal complaints. Tell me, is hypocrisy a job requirement at the Daily Progressive? Reynolds attempted to deflect. This is about the Trump family's impact on our impact? Like my mother's literacy program that your network refused to cover? Barron's voice remained calm, but his eyes locked onto Reynolds like a predator. Or perhaps you'd prefer to discuss your network's fundraising gala, where you auctioned off private jet trips while lecturing others about climate change? You're trying to distract from the real issues, Reynolds stammered, his earlier confidence evaporating. Real issues? Like your publication's offshore accounts? Barron's tone was unrelenting. Or real issues like your editor's text messages about manufacturing outrage for clicks? I have those screenshots too. Would you like me to share them? The crowd was now fully invested, watching Reynolds shrink with each precise strike. This is harassment, he tried weakly. Barron's laugh cut through the air. Harassment? Like sending paparazzi to follow my 12-year-old cousin? Or like publishing my sister's home address? Each example landed like a hammer, backed by evidence displayed on Barron's phone. I'm just trying to hold powerful people accountable, Reynolds managed to squeak out, his voice barely audible. Barron leaned down slightly, his imposing frame making Reynolds step back again. Accountability? Perfect. Let's talk about your accountability. He pulled up more tweets. Should we start with your deleted posts about immigrant women? Or your burner account where you mock accent barriers? Reynolds was now visibly shaking, his planned ambush completely derailed. The live stream was still running, capturing every moment of his humiliation. Barron's next words were the knockout punch. You know what the real story is here? He asked, gesturing to the captivated crowd. It's not about my mother or my family. It's about a failing industry so desperate for clicks they've abandoned every principle of journalism. Reynolds tried to interject, but his voice failed him. Let me show everyone your morning email, Barron continued, displaying another screenshot. Need rage-bait content by 5 p.m.? Target Trump family for maximum engagement. The crowd murmured as Reynolds' face turned ashen. Is this what journalism school taught you? Or did you learn this technique in your viral marketing for failed writers workshop? Barron's smile was lethal. The public deserves to know. Reynolds attempted one last time. The public deserves to know. Barron interrupted with devastating precision. The public deserves to know that you were fired from 3 networks for fabricating sources, or that your anonymous sources are just your burner Twitter accounts. I have the IP addresses to prove it. Melania stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Barron's shoulder. The contrast between her elegance and Reynolds' disheveled state was stark. Perhaps, Mr. Reynolds, she said with her distinctive accent, you should focus on real journalism instead of creating fake controversies. Her words, delivered with perfect timing, drew appreciative chuckles from the crowd. Barron's final blow came as Reynolds fled. And Mr. Reynolds, Barron called after him, next time you plan an ambush, make sure you're not the one walking into a trap. The crowd erupted in applause as Reynolds practically ran for the exit. His career was in shambles. The video of the confrontation exploded online, but not with the hashtag Reynolds had planned. Instead, Barron destroys media and journalism fail were trending worldwide within hours. Even rival networks couldn't resist covering the story, with one anchor calling it the most spectacular takedown in media history. Behind the scenes, Reynolds' career imploded. Barron's revelations exposed years of contradictions and hypocrisy. The Daily Progressive placed him on indefinite leave, advertisers pulled out, and their credibility was in free fall. Reynolds' last tweet simply read, "I'm stepping away from journalism to reflect." Later that evening at the Trump residence, Melania smiled as she watched her son loosen his tie. You knew he was coming for us, didn't you? She asked. Barron grinned, pulling out a folder of meticulously researched documents. 2 weeks ago when he started following our social media team? He shrugged casually. So I followed him back, all of his accounts. Donald called from his private line, having watched the video multiple times. That's my boy, he said proudly. You didn't just beat them at their own game, you rewrote the rules. Barron's response was characteristically modest. Just applying what Harvard taught me about discovery and due diligence. The family shared a laugh, knowing he'd done much more than that. The aftermath rippled through the media landscape. Journalism schools began using the incident as a case study in ethics and preparation. The phrase, "Did you Barron Trump this story?" became newsroom slang for thorough fact-checking. The gala's original charitable cause raised record donations, with many citing the entertainment value as their reason for giving. Barron received speaking invitations from top universities to discuss media literacy and digital accountability. He declined most of them, preferring to let his actions speak louder than words. As he told his mother that night, sometimes the best defense is a well-prepared offense. The story became a cultural touchpoint for changing media dynamics. Young journalists began double-checking their social media histories, while veteran reporters faced increased scrutiny. Even AOC now triple-checks her posts before tweeting about her "Elon ruined my latte" rants. The era of consequence-free hit pieces was over. Meanwhile, Melania's charity work received unprecedented positive coverage, even from traditionally hostile outlets. The Daily Progressive underwent a major editorial restructuring, publicly committing to fact-based journalism. Their new social media policy explicitly banned the term takedown from all coverage. Barron returned to his studies at Harvard, where professors used his dismantling of Reynolds as a case study in law and journalism. His classmates joked that the library's legal research section should be renamed the Barron Trump School of Fact-Checking. As for Reynolds, he left journalism altogether, ironically finding success writing a book about media accountability. In interviews, he admitted the encounter with Barron forced him to confront his biases and ethical shortcuts. His most quoted line? "I went hunting for a viral moment and became a cautionary tale instead." And that's how one journalist's attempted takedown backfired spectacularly. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let me know in the comments what you think about Barron's strategic genius and share your own stories of justice served. Until next time, this is Ludwig, signing off.